Alright, what's up YouTube? Back with a video, different camera angle, same thing as before. We're back, obviously, like I mentioned, this room is not set up like properly, so don't, it's just a poster behind us for the minute. It would change. Right, computers on the right, I can see everything's recording, everything's, mic's working. As you know, I've uploaded videos, my mic don't work. So basically, Zoggers, this is the video for you, right? You made a comment, it's saying, nice to see an in-depth video. What are your thoughts on the sudden trend of people paying above MSRP? Right, so manufactured, suggested, retail price. Right, so let's say, for example, we're going to grab this for an example. This is a Paradox Rift booster box, right? Now, let's say, for example, Pokemon suggests that this box is sold at, say, £80, yeah, or £100. Let's make it easy, £100. If Pokemon come out and say that this should be £100, but then what happens is they do a wave of the product, and then let's say the shops, let's say a certain shop, right? Because each depending on each location and how many employees that shop may have, right? Let's say a shop that's based in London, right? Like London is its own separate entity from the UK, right? London is, a private estate. They will say, this Pokemon box would be sold in London at, let's say, I don't know, £150 in the store, right? So let's say that Pokemon suggests that the box be £100 and these people go into London and they're in London and they're buying these cards, right? So you know that somebody out there is paying more for MSRP for this booster box, right? So let's say, for example, even let's say the retail price of a Pokemon Go box is, say, £50, and then people on eBay are paying like £70, right? So what you got to remember is the people that pay above MSRP, they want the product now. Yeah, they want the product today. Like they've got money, they want to buy it, they want to spend the money, and they want to buy it now, right? They don't want to wait, right, for however many long, before the price comes back down. Now, let's say, again, that the price of the box is retail at a different store in, let's say, Glasgow, right? Just picked a random place, right? Random place. So, in Glasgow, let's say Pokemon says, or even in the United States, like, even in the US, right? So the US could say $100. The price of this Paradox Rift should be $100, right? So they sell it at $100. All of a sudden, people are paying $110, $120, $130. Products becoming like a year old. Market value starts to go up. Let's say somebody buys a single card, single market starts to go up. The prices gradually creep up, right? But mostly on the product that say is released today. So let's say Destined Rivals, right? Destined Rival comes out, there's a lot of hype behind it. People are like, yo, I want the box now. Like, how much is it for the box? Like, $160. The MSRP is, $120. The fact that people want the so-called aspect of suggested shop price is kind of like, it's kind of like a fad. And it's kind of like that no one really should take into consideration anymore because, Pokemon themselves, I would say are probably underprinting the product on purpose and keeping the price high. Now, why would they do this? Because they probably also know that the dollar and the pound and all these currencies are kind of a Ponzi scheme and they want to get as much profit out of their own product than, themselves. So why would they say, like, let's do a Pokemon, like a printing of prismatic, right? Let's say they didn't print enough product. Well, how can they not print enough product? This is the Pokemon company. They generate billions a year just from clothes. I'm talking a bit different. So I cracked a tooth. I got to go get it sorted, right? I'm probably going to get gold on it, but it's why my tongue is rubbing against it, so it's a bit sore. So if my speech is that's why, right? So for example, let's say, where was I at, right? So yeah, Pokemon. So Pokemon printing the product, and then them printing the product in the way that, you know, we're going to print the product to a limited availability, and then we're going to push the hype up, so then there's more people waiting for the drop, yeah? So then let's say we charge more than the MSRP, so let's say Elite Trainer Boxes, Alpha Investments made a video, and he was like, because, you know, he's a big guy, and, you know, we'll mention him because, you know, he's a sick guy in the hobby, you know, whatever he does, like, he's not really a Pokemon guy anyway, he loves, you know, Magic, but he even said that the manufactured selling price was not even Pokemon's official price that they were even selling the product to him for. So even they raised the price, you know, because, you know, the product's in demand. Like, for this set right behind me, right, everyone is paying crazy money for prismatic. So when people are paying crazy money for this set because they want to open this one single booster pack like this, they want to open this single booster pack and they want to get like $1,000 of cards out of this. Like, it's a gambling, you know, as a gambling thing. Like, you are becoming the next. You have a higher chance probably at pulling one of them packs than you are winning $1 million at a casino. So this is literally how it works, right? So let me just refresh my memory real quick. You know, so sudden trend, right? So the trend behind everyone like running out and buying as much product as they can, right? So a thing with Pokemon, you know, people open the product, right? So, you know, let's say like a stack of packs, right? Let's just grab a stack of packs, right? Let's grab a stack of packs here. So let's say you run out and you buy as many single booster packs as possible from random sets, Paradox. What we got here? We got Scarlet and Violet base, Paldeer evolved. You know, there's a Scarlet and Violet base set, look, and then we've got a Pokemon Go pack here, right? And then we've got a Temporal Forces, which is another one, right? And for example, if you go out and everyone's rushing out to buy this product, right? It's because the demand is insane. But they know that the demand is getting bigger because of people pulling these cool cards, right? And you know, you've got two flip sides of the hobby, right? You've got the pack openers that are the kids. The kids buy, the parents buy the cards for the kids, right? So are we even recording? Right, we're still recording, right? So they buy the cards for the kids. So the kids go, Mom, I want some Pokemon. Yeah, buy me a booster. Do you know what I mean? Where when you was a kid, you'd say, oh, yo, Dad, get us a booster. Like, give us a pound. Do you know what I mean? You could buy a booster back. A booster. Right? A booster, yeah? A booster, right? So you can get a booster for £1, right? Or back then, I mean, this thing costs £4 right now, right? So if you're giving your kid pocket money per week, probably give them £4, they're probably going to spend it on a booster, right? Because they want to get some cards. Or they might spend it on sweets. So anyway, you have those kids, right? The kids rip the cards, and then they might say to the mum or the dad, oh, can you sell this online? I don't want this one. I want another one, right? Because the kids right now are smarter than, you know, kids that grew up in the 90s, right? So the kids in the 90s didn't have access to the internet and whatever. You probably didn't have, you know, eBay weren't around then. So you couldn't just go and sell your card willy-nilly tomorrow. Well, you pull it and you sell it online. Boom, gone, right? So the fact is, you got the investors of the hobby, right? So the investors buy the sealed packs. The investors buy the sealed boxes, right? Like, I have no intention of opening this Paradox Rift box. Like, the whole idea I bought this is, you know, solely for, like, financial gain. I will say that on the video. It doesn't make you a bad individual if you buy this box for, you know, financial gain, right? But let's say, for example, like, my channel is not very big. So if my channel was massive and I was doing, like, a box break, a live event, you know, like a rip and ship or whatever, right? You know, you would open this and then sell packs, right? So you would, you know, you wouldn't make as much, like, money from that, right, as selling the boosters, right? You might do a box break and be like, you know, there is one pack out of this box that is guaranteed to hit a, you know, the secret rare, right? So everyone buys a booster box because there's that one chance of you hitting a secret rare card, where if you go buy 36 boosters, you know, from, I don't know, let's say you buy a tin, yeah, you get 2 packs. You buy a blister where you get 3 packs. You buy an elite trainer box where you probably get 9 or 10 packs. And then you go buy like a promotion box which has got like, I don't know, 5 or 6 packs in it. You could put them all together and you might get something better in those hits than you would out of a booster box. Now, there's no guarantee that that would happen, but you've got to remember, if you buy like a 3-pack blister, Pokemon technically has got to give you something out of the 3 packs, because if you open 3 packs and you didn't get anything, like no, V card or anything that's like possibly that is just good, or one single pack that's shiny, or even like something down to like a Condur, yeah? Like, let's say you get this card, right? A Condur from Pokemon Go, and you're like, oh, that's a V card. Right? Kid can play with that, right? So they literally have to give you something out of them 3-pack hits or them blisters, because if they don't, you would like, if you spent like £13 on them and then you'd end up opening all 3 and you got nothing, you'd be pretty mad. Do you know what I mean? Like, as an adult, you'd be pretty mad. And I think even if you was watching your kid opening that and they not get anything from that, and they go, Dad, this I spent money on this and it was shit, like, it was rubbish, yeah, I didn't get nothing. The kid's going to be pretty mad as well. So Pokemon has to give them something down the line. So the difference between a booster box and 36 random packs is, the reason why people choose the booster box is because it has that guarantee. So if you do, let's say, a box break and you then do, alright guys, it's 36 boosters, everything is being sold, I'm not keeping anything. Let's say you tamper seal, or like, I don't know, you put like the booster, let's say for example you get the booster, right, and then let's just say a card saver, but we're going to use this as an example as a card saver. Let's say you put the booster in a card saver and then you put like that little plastic bit over the top of it, and then you put like a tamper seal in it, and then, or let's say you stick a sticker on it and then you put box break, JoeG's box break, and this was one of 36 packs that came from the box, and then you buy into that, and then let's say you're like the 11th guy who sits there and you open the pack, and then let's say you sell them and ship them, right? So then there'll be a guarantee you might be the 11th booster pack might be the one with the secret rare in it, and you might be like, bam, I got the Greninja from Twilight Masquerade, I'm up money. So eventually someone's going to win for getting that, that big hit from the box. So, boxes and MSRP regarding like MSRP. Now, for example, Paradox Rift. Now, Paradox Rift is kind of a set where nobody wants it, right? So you can literally go on eBay and you can pick one of these up for like 130, right? And then you got Scarlet and Violet base. You can go on eBay, you can pick that up for like 130, right? There's other people selling it. Now, I don't know what that retailed at. It may have retailed at like 100, but is it worth still paying like 130 for it? Well, yeah, because the Roaring Moon, where it's like Salamence, right? But basically like an upgraded version of Salamence, right? I don't really get these like these new cards and these Guardian Fire and basically stuff. It's like Entei and I see it as just Entei and like who's the other guy who I just said, like Salamence, right? So like Roaring Moon is what it's called. He's flying out of the ground, right? The raw price is like £40. Now, let's say £40. That's the best card from the Paradox Rift box, in my opinion. Yeah, there's no like, if you look through the set and you say, oh, there might be a cool couple trainers that you might like over, or let's even take Astral Radiance. Astral Radiance has loads of trainer galleries, and the trainer galleries are really good, right? But the secrets or the big hits are really where the box value should be. So if you say get a Roaring Moon at a Paradox Rift, and then you grade that card and you get a 10, and let's say the 10 is worth more than the box, which Pokemon kind of print, this is where another reason why I think Pokemon English is kind of not a scam, but I think they manipulate the way the cards are printed, because if Pokemon Japan is printing the cards at near mint to perfect, well, literally near perfect quality, if they're, most, let's say, Japanese cards can get like black labels, Dragon Ball Z is printed in Japan, right? It's in English, but it's printed in Japan. Pokemon's quality of like the way they print the products is kind of sketch, and in America they're kind of printing it where you can't get PSA 10s, or most of the cards become 9. So do do these companies work hand in hand? Does PSA say something to Pokemon, or does Pokemon be so big that, you know, they don't want every single card to be a 10, so they make the quality rubbish? Now, I don't think anyone should be getting an 8 out of a booster pack. Like, nobody should be getting an 8 out of a booster pack. I think if you get a card that's like a grade 8, it's off center, it's like way off to the side, and it's got whitening on it, I think that should not be acceptable as a quality control kind of thing, like, to put that in a product, because, you know, kids don't want that. The adults that open the cards, they don't want that. And, you know, okay, the miscut cards or the OC cards, like, you know, PSA likes to troll, you know. Like I say, if I was at PSA and I was, you know, looking over these things, I'd be like, yo, listen, if you get caught not grading these at OC, or if that customer demands an OC grade, you'll fire them straight away. But, you know, it's like, it's the same thing when it comes to, you know, MSRP, and it's kind of a fad, and I wouldn't kind of take into consideration when buying anything like, oh, well, the recommended price should be like $30 or $100. Like, it doesn't really matter. The market kind of decides on what the price of the box would be, or the price of the card. You know, if the card price goes up, or let's say, for example, like Zapdos from Pokemon Go, right, hit the World Edition decks, and, you know, Pokemon Go Zapdos, you think, well, why is that? How did that make it into there, right? So obviously, you know, somebody could look back through some cards and be like, yo, I've got a perfect combo that probably no one's ever thought of. And then all of a sudden, you know, this card from whatever deck, like Illuminion V, you know, really playable, like, people just throw it out and then use, like, I don't know, 1 energy on it or something. But, or they won't even put energies on it, they just use it for the ability, right? So this card, like, one random guy will probably think of the Pokemon TCG and they'll be like, yo, this card's OP. Like, nobody's realised it yet. And then it'll get played, and then all of a sudden that card will go bum, 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 and it will spike and everyone will play it. Like the tag team cards. Like tag team cards from, like, let's go back to like Unbroken Bonds, and then those Zashi and V boxes that they made that had like the tag team Dialga, Palkia, and Arceus in the artwork. And then all of a sudden, like after 6 years, right, this card's been like flat like this, and then all of a sudden it's gone boom. And it's just gone straight up, like, just some mad reason, like. So, you know, you could have been buying them cards at, like, £3-4 back in the day, getting B battle boxes for, like, £20. And then, you know, people would have complained that, let's say they were paying, like, £23 and the box was only £20. It's like, well, I'm paying over MSRP, but then realistically, like, look 2 years later from where you're buying the box, you're like, well, I'm getting the box here, you know, half price now. So, realistically, like, you paying this value for something, is you've got to look at it like, in 2 years, is the price I paid going to be more? Obviously, because, you know, governments, banks, they imprint money. Right, let's just put it this way. You know, if the banks keep printing money and raising inflation, the economy exactly will collapse, because no businesses will be able to afford to operate to run. Now, this is why a lot of companies and people charge more money over, you know, in a set area, because the business taxes might be higher, or the, you know, the rent of the building might be higher. So some people, like, might be having to pay more for the product, or, you know, they might have to charge more to be able to cover the running costs of the company. So if you might, like, you know, there's people that buy as, you know, they buy as cheap as possible. So they'll go on each website and they'll go, oh, well, on eBay it's like $130, you know, do I buy off a reputable seller, someone that's been selling for a long time? You know, like, do I buy off an Amazon? Do I buy off a big box store? Do you know what I mean? Who do you want your money to go to? Now, if you want to keep funding Amazon, and funding Amazon and funding Amazon, and, you know, everyone's funding these mega corporations, right? Okay, you know, you can fund them and get cheaper prices, but, you know, your money that is being spent with these guys are literally going to destroy every individual mini seller around the world, because people just won't support them because they're cheapest. Now, I know everyone is on a budget and they want to, you know, you should kind of try and support small businesses as much as possible, even if, like, you know, if they're, you know, a couple of pounds or a couple of dollars more than buying from a big box store. You know, at the end of the day, these people are just probably like you, and, you know, they're just trying to get by, or they're just trying to live. So it's like, support those guys. Don't just, you know, jump to the big box stores. Like, you know how for investments he's got like what, nearly 100 million. So it's not like he's short of a few quid. That's why he, you know, runs Patreon sales, you know, to like get, you know, gives people a discount and stuff. And you know, that's good of him, right? Because he's basically giving his people that pay him, yeah, you know, they give him money for his you know, his Patreon, that he then gives them a better price over time. So they realistically can get it fast, and they can get it when they want it, and then they can message him and, you know, be in his direct contact. So there's a benefit for it. So, you know, regarding the MSRP thing, I'm going to kind of end the video here and then just be like, don't just expect people to be selling at MSRP, because there's too much cost for certain people to run certain businesses, locations. You know, I don't know how it is in America. You know, America is, you know, a wild west. It's an insanely massive place. Some states have bigger taxes, right? I think. You know, so if you're from America, you'll have to enlighten me on, you know, state taxes, this sales tax, you know, federal taxes or whatever it is that, you know, they have to pay certain shops, stores, whatever. And then maybe that's the reason why people do go to the big box stores. But we'll see you in the next video. And if you like this one, like the video, and we'll see you in the next one. Peace.